My name is First Lieutenant Michael Loyd. I'm a combat engineer officer in the United States Marine Corps. This previous deployment, I was a part of a combat support advisor team, more commonly known as a embedded training team or military transition team. All types of names for these teams that go around. Kind of gets confusing. I actually believe they're called SFATs now. And our mission was essentially to go in and take these Afghans, an entire Kandak, which is the equivalent of an American battalion. So you're looking at roughly 1,000 Afghan National Army soldiers. And we were supposed to go in and teach these guys essentially how to be engineers, how to be reconnaissance Marines, or excuse me, how to be reconnaissance soldiers, how to do artillery shoots, and finally we're going to teach them some basic EOD tactics. Throughout the course of the deployment, several things happened, and one day, at least to me, kind of stands out very clearly, and that was the first day that I was around any type of hostile fire. The mission started off, it was a routine day. We were going to go basically do a combat patrol, a mounted combat patrol down Route 606. And that's just a hardball 2-lane road that connects some of the larger cities and Kalats going south towards Iran. So we were going down Route 606 to a small city called Dimzong. And Dimzong is, if I had to guess, probably has 200 people in it, so it's more like a large family village than it is a city. The basic problem was that the soldiers down there, they weren't providing the basic security elements that they needed to make sure that their force protection level was adequate. So our job as advisors was to see if we could go down and beef that up and cut down on some of the Afghan National Army losses due to this basic every day-to-day attrition. So we were there. My team leader was Captain Kennedy, and at the time Gunnery Sergeant Stupinski was the senior staff NCO. I was the convoy commander, more of the mission commander. I was less hands-on with the advising for that piece and more concerned for our internal security, and I was really looking at like our logistics, our trucks, fuel, any considerations that we needed to have a good firm position and be safe while they conducted the actual advisor mission. So we had been on station at one of the little checkpoints. I believe they called it Maywan 5. We had been there for approximately 20 to 30 minutes. And whenever you set into a position, you know that the bad guys are watching you, especially when you're in a somewhat urban environment. And so for this one, we're just 400, maybe 500 meters outside of a little Kalat, family size area, extended family size, so maybe 20 to 30 people live in this compound. At the same time, I'm constantly monitoring the BFT, or the Blue Force Tracker, and I'm looking at the situation around us. We have a G-Boss, which is a pretty good piece of gear. It's a optical camera. You also have thermal and night vision, and I think you can look out fairly with a clear picture, probably out to 1 kilometer, so a decent distance away. It's definitely far enough to see most positions where somebody can kill you from. And no sooner than I was ready to bring our force protection level down just a little bit, give some guys some time out the turret to get some chow and water in them, you hear clack clack clack, and for me, I'm thinking, what was that? I didn't know we were getting shot at, to be honest. I kind of sat there, and my corporal at the time was sitting in the turret, and he kind of reached down because I could see him directly behind me. I'm in the VC seat in the front right of the truck, and Corporal Moreno says, "Hey, sir, did you hear that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I heard that, but I don't know what it is." It became more evident as the impacts, the rounds got a little bit closer to being on target. So at the same time, all of a sudden, now my heart's racing and I'm ready to start paying attention to the situation. I'm getting like locked on mentally. And my immediate concern wasn't necessarily about myself because I'm in an up armored vehicle. I got a couple inches of steel around me protecting me from, everything aside from some type of shape charge. However, I got my first sergeant or my gunny outside the truck, and I got my team leader outside the truck, as well as just a few dismounts providing some basic security, looking around, smoking and joking like Marines always do. And I noticed, I kind of look out the front window, and those guys are essentially pinned down. And I'm thinking, oh my God, what's happening? Because you don't have really good communication. Yeah, we had one dismounted radio, but try talking on Marine Corps issued radios and see how far you get with that. So the next thing that happens, and it's still one of those events that I look back on today and I marvel at it. I just see Gunny Stepinski just start running down the hill. He's got his rifle in his hand, and he's a cool guy. So you always he's got to look cool regardless of whether he's working out in the gym or running through machine gun fire. And so he's running towards the truck, and I'm like, okay, what is he doing? He comes to my truck, opens the door, and he's like, sir, they're shooting at us. And I'm sure I had the most bewildered look on my face because I kind of stopped, I looked, and I paused, and I just said, okay, let's go. Because what else do you do? I mean, that's what the Marine Corps teaches you. They teach you that when somebody shoots at you, you automatically return fire, you dominate the situation, fire superiority. As a brand new lieutenant, that's what was stuck in my head, was to just get on top of the situation, dominate it. Now, we had to balance that with the ROE, gaining positive identification and all of that, but this was the first time I was actively being engaged. So, after that, there are a few things that happened. Again, like I said, Gunny Stepinski, in my opinion, was just a heroic guy. He, essentially, this guy was running through machine gun fire because there's a group of Afghans 100 meters away from us that are caught out in the distance, and you can see them, and they're just pinned down, and they don't want to move because they know if they get up, they're probably going to get shot at. So, I get on the radio, all Vics, this is the vehicle, this is the convoy commander, hey, give me all your pack counts right now. I'm basically getting full accountability before we get inside our trucks, button up, and we're going to essentially start our offensive maneuver on the enemy. And the situation was more complex than that. There were women and kids out there. The Afghans were in a online formation at this time, getting ready to start just a basic advance onto the compound to see what they could do. And so we ended up taking our trucks into a flanking position and got ready to provide overwatch, and if necessary, become a support by fire position from them. Also, we had our doc in the back of the truck, and he was ready to go as far as any type of medevac, casevac. So we moved into what looked like a pretty creepy area. Again, there's poppy fields all around us, and I sort of realized we were driving into the one place that didn't have any poppy growing, and I'm thinking, my God, I just drove us into an IED field. And my gunny's in the back. I just hear him yelling on the radio, Lieutenant Loyd, or Vehicle 1 Convoy Commander or something like that. Basically, what are you doing? So I kind of paused. I took a breath, a good tactical pause, because everything's flying a million miles an hour around you. My heart rate was jacked up, so I just wanted to slow down. And I started listening to what the guys were saying on the radio. Started listening to the chatter that was going back and forth, because everyone is providing information that's important. And once I heard all that, I basically got a good appraisal of the situation, and we ended that day essentially on a high note. We took very aggressive actions. We provided an overwatch position, and the Afghans were actually ultimately able to maneuver onto this compound through our support and go in, take the bad guys out, take their weapons. Some of the actions that they committed would have landed Marines in jail, but they're Afghans, so they can do that. But as Marines, we took the high road that day. I was very proud of my team. It was definitely was a life-changing experience. We took a little indirect mortar fire that day, a couple boom, 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 smoke clouds popped up probably 40, 50 yards off our vehicle, but that's what we get paid for. That's what we do as Marines. So that, all in all, it was a good day. It was everyone came home alive, and that was definitely my primary goal.